This is the story of a town. It could be any small middle-class town for that matter. A carefree place where the neighbors are friendly, the air is clean, the water is pure, and it is a great place to raise the kids. But none can be farther from the truth, for this town is plagued by a terrible curse, where the residents live in eternal purgatory and is governed by an ancient cult, hell-bent on pleasing the town's bloodthirsty god, a literal hell on earth. For this is the story of a town called Silent Hill. Wait a minute, this isn't Silent Hill! Then where exactly are we? Hinamizawa? Oh yeah, the other Silent Hill. A town in the Japanese countryside that shares a similar curse in the anime Higurashi no Naku Koro ni, when they cry. Higurashi no Naku Koro ni was a murder mystery series of games created by a company called 7th Expansion that was made in 2002. Since then, it has spun off into many different forms of media, from manga to movies to two 26-episode TV anime shows. The story is about a boy named Mayabara Keiichi and his friends, as well as the strange events surrounding the mysterious town of Hinamizawa. So as you can tell, this is going to be one messed up show. How messed up is it? Let's take a look. So our story begins in June of 1983. Here we see a rather gruesome murder being committed.
Everybody! It's Little Slugger!
And yet, of course, it was all a dream. Here we meet our main character, Keiichi Mayabara. As he walks to school, he runs into his friends Rena Ryugu and Mion Sonozaki. So after school, Rena invites Keiichi to go treasure hunting at the village dump. I guess she takes dumpster diving to a whole new level. Well, as they say, one man's garbage is another man's treasure. She apparently took Keiichi with her so she can retrieve a statue of Colonel Sanders?
The Kenta doll!
No, that's not. That's so obviously Colonel Sanders.
She wants to get the Kenta doll?
It's Colonel Sanders, you moron! Haven't you had Kentucky Fried Chicken before? See, it's so obviously freaking Colonel Sanders! Okay. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It's just so obviously a statue of Colonel Sanders. While Rena goes out to look for the Kenta doll, Keiichi runs into a photographer. He tells Keiichi about a series of murders that took place a few years back and that the murder was never solved. So the next evening, Keiichi arrives to help Rena recover Colonel Sanders from the dump when he comes across some old newspapers. Curious about what the photographer told him the other day, he finds news about the murders. The next day, the group is preparing to get ready for the town festival known as the Cotton Drifting Festival. A festival that takes place every year that takes homage to the town's guardian known as Oyashiro. However, much like the town, the festival holds a dark secret. A few years ago, an outside development team had plans to build a dam in the quiet rural village, which outraged the locals into a mass protest and led to the ultimate cancellation of the project. But ever since that year, people have been mysteriously murdered or disappear without a trace every year during the night of the Cotton Drifting Festival, an occurrence the townsfolk call the Curse of Oyashiro. That doesn't sound like a guardian. That sounds more like a tyrant, if you ask me. And if that's not the case, then Oyashiro is pretty bad at his job. He is then visited by a police detective who is investigating the murder of the photographer Keiichi met a couple days back. It is here where Keiichi begins his dive into paranoia, and the show steadily takes a much more creepy tone. But hey, what is a creepy show without a cast of creepy characters? There are many different characters in this show, but I would like to focus on 4 of the main cast. First off, there's Keiichi Maebara, who is the main character in the first 3 story arcs of the anime. He is the son of a famous artist and moves to Hinamizawa to get away from the hectic life of the city after an accident in which he shot a young girl in the eye with a toy gun. He moves into the house that his family had purchased from the Sonozaki family. He is also very charismatic and makes friends easily. Thus, his charisma and remarkable talent for rhetoric earns him the nickname the Magician of Words. She's in the same grade as Keiichi and probably the same age as well. She is normally a naive and sweet girl who has an obsession for anything that she perceives as cute. In fact, she likes to go splurging in the village's trash dump looking for cute things to collect. You will remember to wash your hands before you eat anything, right? She is also very observant and is able to easily tell if someone is lying or can quickly pick up any details of information. But while Rena might look cutesy, people should be careful not to anger her, as she becomes quite scary when angered, and is very sensitive whenever the subject of Oyashiro-sama is brought up. The last 2 characters I want to talk about are the twins Shion and Mion Sonozaki. They are identical twins who often switch places with each other, making it difficult to distinguish between the two. Mion is the oldest kid in Keiichi's class. As the elder, she is the class president, and everyone looks up to her as the leader. She is also tomboyish, but she secretly hides a girlish side. Shion, however, lives away from town and resides in Okinomiya. She recently escaped from boarding school and returned to live in her hometown. She was in love with a boy named Satoshi who mysteriously disappeared. No, not that Satoshi! She blames the town for his disappearance, and thus her sadistic personality she manifested in her grief drove her to mass murder, which led to her psychosis. This is yet another show I would not recommend to anyone under the age of 16, and here's why. I don't remember there being too much nudity in this show. But I do remember one scene where Satoko is forced by her abusive uncle to count to 10,000 inside a heated bath, in which Keiichi rescues her, and she is naked for a good portion of the episode. Other than that, I don't remember seeing any other instances of nudity, thus I will give this at least 1 star. I can also say the same thing about crude humor as well. So this also gets 1 star. Language is mostly pretty mild, although most of the profanity in this show is mostly used during the darker portions of the show. Thus, I will give this 2 stars. However, this show is probably one of the bloodiest anime shows I have ever seen. Many characters will often end up being tortured, hacked, or bludgeoned to death, only to be coming back in the next story arc, sometimes only to be killed again. Not too much like a certain character from South Park.
Oh my god! They killed me! Oh my god! They killed me! You bastard!
You said bad words for rushing the buzz, and now this is your tale. You ain't going back, you lay a tail.
Oh my god! They killed me! You bastard!
Bring that bird and I go to church and stare at a blurry head. But you're a man, stand your ground.
Oh my god! They killed Kitty, you bastard!
So, putting that into perspective, I will give this 4 stars for violence. The show consists of 6 different story arcs completely set apart from each other, but they are all part of a greater story. As each storyline plays itself out, more secrets behind the town and its inhabitants are revealed. Each of these stories start out light and fluffy with the characters in their everyday lives, but they quickly turn dark and macabre with many characters being killed off, only for the next storyline to kick in like the events that we just saw never even happened.
Jeez, it's like an animated rated R version of Groundhog Day.
I wasn't just blown up yesterday. I have been stabbed, shot, poisoned, frozen, hung, electrocuted, and burned.
Oh, really?
And every morning I wake up without a scratch on me, not a dent in the fender. I am an immortal.
Oh, and don't forget about being crucified by your demon-possessed best friend.
Referring back to the Silent Hill series, the show seems to have 2 distinct personalities, the bright-colored, ultra-cute and cuddly side, in contrast with Silent Hill in its normal state, and the dark, macabre, and ultra-violent side, Silent Hill's Otherworld.
Except there's no monsters or demons running amok throughout the town.
Okay, so there's 1 demon in this show. Big whoop. Well, anyway, the show thrives on the contrast between its moe art style and the dark, macabre nature of Hinamizawa and its inhabitants.
I said that girl is cursed.
Now, here are some problems I have with this show. The show is divided into 2 26-episode seasons, the first being Higurashi no Naku Koro ni, and the second being Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai. The first season was licensed in the US by Geneon Entertainment, who announced that they were leaving the US anime industry shortly afterward as the show was being released. Therefore, the license to the show was handed over to Funimation Entertainment to continue its distribution in the US. However, the second season has yet to be released in the US, and from the looks of things, it is doubtful it ever will. So if you're looking for answers to much of the questions that were left unanswered in the first season, I suggest you either download the second season with subtitles or learn Japanese fast.
What, I'm forgetting something? Nice boat incident? What nice boat incident? Oh yeah, that nice boat incident.
Apparently, while this show was running on Japanese television, there was an incident on September 17th, 2007, in which a teenage girl killed her father with an axe, who apparently was a prominent Tokyo police chief. Due to having scenes with many similarities to the crime, Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai, along with another show called School Days, was removed from the schedules of many television stations around Japan. The murder gained notoriety as the Nice Boat incident after the last episode of School Days, which had a main character of the show killed off in a similar fashion. The episode was originally scheduled to air the following day, but after the incident occurred, the episode in question was replaced by a 30-minute clip of European imagery, complete with the image of a boat on a Norwegian fjord.
That is such a nice boat. You've got to agree with me. That is a really nice boat.
However, where School Days was merely postponed, Higurashi no Naku Koro ni Kai was cancelled altogether.
The incident just shows yet another example of morons who can't tell real life from fantasy.
But what do I know? I'm just the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
But let's get back on topic. Story-wise, the anime does a rather good job at keeping up with the suspense. Despite its use of some rather graphic violence, it keeps you anxiously looking forward to the next episode and how the current situation will play itself out. You will watch as this lighthearted comedy suddenly turns dark and the characters slowly go insane and lose control of themselves, diving deeper into the realms of irrational paranoia to the point of murder and or suicide. Thus, the story may be difficult to watch at times due to its graphic violence, but the show has many clever plot twists and turns to keep you interested, on par with an M. Night Shyamalan movie. And no, that movie does not count! So overall, I will give this show a 4 out of 5 stars for story. Apart from the opening and ending themes, the soundtrack in this show does its job, but it doesn't really stand out much. The music isn't too bad, and much like the show itself, the music fluctuates from light and fluffy to dark and disturbing. However, this series sports one of the slickest and most haunting sets of intro credits I have seen to date, both visually and aurally. Thus, I will give this 4 out of 5 stars. During the more lighthearted portions of the show, the animation looks rather simple, but becomes more detailed as the darker portions start to kick in. Although some of the facial expressions kind of ruin the scary atmosphere at times. However, at the same time, the characters' facial expressions can also be outright terrifying. The animation may be far from polished, but the style does convey a more lighthearted and comical relief to such a dark show. Thus, I will give animation a 3 out of 5. The characters in this show seem like your normal, friendly, everyday townsfolk, but in reality, they are just as dark and depraved as anybody from the Silent Hill franchise. But perhaps the most disturbing fact is that the characters in the show are in fact children who are being subjected to these tortures and murders, and often were not perpetrated by children.
What, you've never read Lord of the Flies before?
Depending on the circumstances, all of the characters at one point or another shift between sanity and insanity. Characters that seem innocent and naive turn out to be anything but, and the show likes playing mind tricks when portraying them.
To put it bluntly, there is more to these characters than meets the eye.
Thus, I will give characters a 4 out of 5. Higurashi no Naku Koro ni is probably one of the most disturbing anime shows I have ever seen. It does what many shows cannot do well. First, it grabs your attention right from the start and never lets go. Yes, it's gory, yes, it's absolutely sadistic, but like any good horror film, it grabs you by the edge of your seat and makes it very hard to stop watching. So if you've got the stomach for animated blood and like a good murder mystery, give this show a try. Just make sure there's no little kids around. You may give them nightmares for weeks. That is why I give Higurashi no Naku Koro ni 4 style points and an overall rating of 8 out of 10.
But make no mistake, Hinamizawa is a place where all your nightmares become reality. A place where death and murder are a way of life. A place where even the most sane person falls into the depths of paranoia. Welcome to Hinamizawa! Welcome to hell!